Hello, I'm EpiX Toycat, and welcome back to episode 415 of my Minecraft Bedrock Update Adventures Let's Play. This is the weekly update as to what's been going on in my survival world, and indeed, life, the universe, and everything in between. And in today's video, in case you are curious, I feel like this is the most Toycat video ever, because this is going to be a little bit ADD between three separate projects. There's three big things I'm working on right now, one of which is mostly Let's Play confined, but two of which are big projects. We're talking like 12 hours plus each, and they both require some kind of big steps that are a little bit passive to be done, or at least two of them do. The third is a bit more active, and I figured, you know, rather than doing one then the other, why not try and do all three things at once? This is something that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't enjoy keeping up with, but I kind of enjoy knowing that even if I do precisely nothing, even when I walk in a straight line right now, it is genuinely helping me, and I'll explain why, because it is to do with the map in my left hand. But while we do that, let's talk about what's been going on with the Let's Play, the world, and everything in between. And although I figured it'd be kind of fun, like if I'm doing three projects, why not do like kind of a pick three and just go through lots of controversial, like one, the other, or the other kind of decisions? Because there are a lot of those out there where like people believe that like I believe one thing and there's another side that's just objectively wrong. And I figured why not weigh in so that if you want to hate me for whatever reason, you know, you can do that easily. Because one of the things that people don't give other people enough opportunities to do is hate them. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it can help someone's day just to hate you. If you're the bad guy in someone else's, you know, story, it sucks to be you in that story, but it helps their story move along. And you know, I'm going to tell you some terrible things, and they're not actually going to be terrible. I just mean stuff like, you know, which are the major three console manufacturers or stuff like that. It'll be kind of fun. But in the meantime, do you want to hear what's been going on the past week? I'm sure you kind of do, because as always, the Let's Play is not just an opportunity to show what's been going on the Let's Play in the past week, and there's been a lot of map making in the past week, by the way, but it's also an opportunity to explain what's been going on in the world more or in my world more generally, I guess I should say. So yeah, what has been going on in my particular world? And I would say, you know, the biggest thing, besides the fact that I had a big wedding I've already spoken about. It was part one of the streams, but like it was such a weird thing to go to, like a wedding of like a person I know, rather than just like, oh yeah, there's some like adults from like whatever, they love each other or blah blah blah, like they're getting married. This was like, oh yeah, this is a dude my age who made this decision. It's kind of scary because as soon as one of your peers does something, you realize that it's an entirely different ballgame. Like we all kind of know secretly in our head that someone is prime minister or president or whatever of your country, but you never feasibly think it can be you because you have no connection, not even like 2 degrees of separation between you and the president, prime minister, or you know, chief executive or whatever your leader might be called. So it's kind of interesting whenever you see someone do a thing, you're like, oh, that's possible. This is actually one of the reasons why, like, when you have high-performing friends, generally you're more likely to perform as well, because you realize that, like, oh yeah, it becomes a realistic possibility. When a lot of your friends are doing really well for themselves, you figure to yourselves, you know, I can probably do quite well as well. So, yeah, fun little fact on that one. But the interesting part of that to me is just that, like, oh yeah, so I kind of realized in the past week that apparently some people are getting to the age where they're like, yep, we're gonna lock ourselves down in marriage. Because having kids, right, it's weird. I know this is, you know, I guess it makes sense or whatever, but I've got a lot of friends with kids, but they're not, you know, friends that are particularly good with the kids. I've got like one exception to that rule, and he was at that same wedding actually. But for the most part, it's like, oh yeah, you have kids, and then maybe one day, if you really love each other, even, you know, even after you get a big hobby together, one that takes up a lot of your time, even after all of that, maybe you decide to get kind of married. It's kind of weird to me that that's happened. Also, one of the big projects was the end cube. I need to get some end stone, so you better believe I'm taking some shulker boxes and filling them up. I've just remembered, by the way, that I have to replace all of this glass in the end, which is making me a bit bummed out because I have to smelt it all too, which means like basically sitting by the smelters for a really long time. Okay, that's another thing we have to remember, but I'm mostly here not to focus on the sadness of the future, but to take some of the endstone away, because obviously that's a thing I've got to do for the endstone project. So yeah, it's all kind of coming together, isn't it? But yeah, it's always depressing to see so much to be done in any project, but like with this one in particular, it's just like, oh my god, that's a thing. Also, there's a blank shulker box here I guess we should take with us as well, and then there's also a random barrel over here that we should really start working out why things are just randomly placed. But yeah, today is an episode of lots of different projects, and what the next one we're going to do, after we've placed our endstone down by our cube, is we're going to head off to the Ice Islands, because after months now of like little bits here and there, that project is like so close to the completion, I can almost taste it. So yeah, well, to get to our little thing to place down these things, I'm going to take a slightly roundabout route, because as you can probably work out, I'm trying to fill out this map on the left here, and the reason I'm trying to do that is something to do with the lag you're going to see in about 3 seconds on my screen. The reason that the game is getting super, super slow is because I recently finished the giant map. It's a thing you might have seen the stream off, you might see I'm going to talk about in the future, but it's still really, really cool to actually see that it's done in there. But yeah, that's unrelated to my next point, which is just like, yeah, I went to a big event and made me realize that, like, yeah, I'm a real person. And it's a scary realization because there are so many things that make me terrified about life. I don't think I've ever precisely shared this, but I never really thought I would live beyond like 18 or something. I thought like that was like a pipe dream, and then like then when it came, it was like, huh. Now there's so many different things I have to work out, like, how do bills work? Like, so I get to use electricity and then you charge me a certain amount and then I have to pay it, except not always. And like, what are the rules on that? How are they going to get the money from me? What happens if they can't get the money from me? Whose fault is it, you know? Like, actually, when I first moved in, I didn't pay my water bill because I was like, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? And fun fact, that is terrible logic. The worst that can happen is bad things. Pro tip for you right there. But yeah, there's a lot of things you have to kind of learn to be an adult, and it's always scary. I think especially, you know, if some percentage of you watching this are not, you know, adults yourself yet, above the age of 18, this is the wrong shulker box. It can seem really scary to just be like, oh yeah, so there's lots of things you have to learn just to exist in the world. The world isn't laid out for you anymore. You have to lay it out yourself. And one of the things I guess is in there is like, oh yeah, you have to one day like nail down someone to live with forever, or work out an alternative strategy, I guess. But still, you know, one of those two things has to happen at some point. I'm gonna ride a boat over to my ice islands, by the way, because again, this map does need to be filled out. Again, it's got a key thing in the video off the map project, but like I could explain now briefly as just like, I want a nice filled map. But I don't think that's a good enough explanation for a lot of you, so I'll just say, you know what? There's a map here. I'm filling it in. It's kind of important, okay? And hopefully that's enough for you. But yeah, we're going to ride a boat across the waters on the left side of the map, because there's otherwise not much reason to go there. And we're going to do that as a way to fill in the little gaps here and there. We're going to go on a nice boat ride today, is what I'm saying. Isn't that exciting? Maybe first, though, we should get to bed, because, you know, doing things in the dark is not fun for anyone. I mean, not fun for most people, at least. So, yeah, with that said, let's talk, you know, besides that whole, like, big event that kind of changed things in that way, one of the big things that, I guess, has been on my mind is a lot of people in my universe, maybe it's just a coincidence, maybe it's a seasonality thing, because I would, you know, I've been, like, I guess in some stage of depressed recently. And I think it's interesting to see and, like, hear in, like, a third-person perspective, because I feel like people are very bad at understanding themselves intrinsically. Kind of the thing I was just saying about, like, you know, I don't really think I'm a real person is a really bad way to think about yourself. It works 99% of the time. I don't need to think I'm a real person. And in fact, I think it gives me a lot of help when I'm doing these videos. Like, working out why should anyone care what I have to say? Why should anyone care what I'm doing in this world? Those are questions which don't have particularly great answers, and even asking those questions can make the answers self-validate in the wrong way. So you can see how, like, for instance, it might make sense in those ways. But also, you sometimes lack perspective on yourself because you don't see yourself in the same way everyone else does. I think one of the things that could help out all of humanity so much better is if you could see the world through the person who likes you most's eyes. And by that, you know, it sounds like I mean like Googie Gaga, like rose-tinted glasses. But I just mean like, you know, there are lots of people in your universe, your friends, your family, that see really great things inside of you that you don't see yourself all the time, right? There's cliches in movies of like, oh yeah, the girl, wait, the girl doesn't know she's beautiful. Maybe it's like an Ed Sheeran song, like, and that's what makes her beautiful. I don't know what it is, but there's a song that literally contains those exact lyrics, right? And it's like a cultural thing. It's a thing everyone knows. And I think that's not just true of like, oh yeah, you don't understand what makes you physically great or not, because, you know, maybe, let's be real, you know, that might not be true. You might be literally grotesque in every way, and a lot of you are going like, yeah, that's me. But I mean, statistically not. But yeah, the interesting thing to me is that a lot of people can't really objectively talk about themselves, and I might even say it's super hard for me to do. I don't think I do a great job when I do it. I try to sometimes, and sometimes it falls flat, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, one of the things I think I can get a good grasp on is when I go through something and then I see other people go through a similar thing. I can be like, hey, well, this is the guide thing there. And I think actually this might be helpful because in my head, September would be a month where like seasonal depression's got to be its slowest, right? Like I want to say January is the saddest month of the year. Like the most people kill themselves in January. So I mean, fun fact, if you're gonna kill yourself in January, at least wait till February. Like try not to be a statistical add to that statistical thing. Like, try and be unique at least. Don't follow, the herd on even the most important thing or least important thing that you're ever going to do. Yeah, along those same kind of lines, I feel like, maybe September should be the month with the lowest, but it doesn't seem to be that way. So how about we talk about something kind of valuable and kind of relevant? And that is the thing I think you hear from every single person who goes through a really bad phase in their life. If you have the ability to do nothing, you will end up doing nothing if you're seriously depressed because you have no motivation, no energy to do anything, right? This is a widely accepted phenomenon. A lot of people hate it, a lot of people love it, but that's the internal logic that people will use. And let's trust, it's one of these things that you have to take people at their word for these sorts of things. If you just assume straight up people are lying, although even if you are right, it still doesn't help the situation, right? Like, even when someone lies about something, you still have to try and take their thing at face value and try and help that. And that's why, in this particular case, like the thing of like, oh yeah, I'm so unmotivated, I literally don't, eat. I literally don't shower. I ignore basic hygiene. And obviously, the advice anyone would give you is like, don't ignore basic hygiene. But I have some better advice here, actually. I wanted to talk about something because it's one of the most important lessons I think I ever learned in my life. And I wanted to share it in this Let's Play because we're doing something that's mildly important Let's Play-wise. But this message is one that is super important and I want to get out of the way before anything else. All the jokes about how I have an Android phone because something, or about how I play on Xbox and I play Bedrock Minecraft. Wow, sure is the worst version. Why am I doing that? But an important message for any of that is just like, I think it is really important to say and get out there that the reason people do things in the world is not always motivation. You might think that it's motivation. You might think the thing that drives a CEO or someone who does something important, whatever job you pick first, the thing that drives them every single day is they are motivated to do it. What drives me, because I don't know if people think I do a lot or not. I make one YouTube video a day. Do people assume that's a lot? I mean, it looks like 25 to 40 minutes of content, so maybe it doesn't seem like too much work in a day, or maybe it seems like a lot of work. I don't know what people actually assume, but the reason I make the body of work that I do, the reason that I put in the work I do, it's not always down to motivation. A lot of the time it is, and I much prefer when I am working of motivation. But the other thing that is always left to the side in these arguments is discipline. Discipline is just as important as motivation for getting things done and leading a life that makes you actually satisfied with yourself. And you might say, wait, discipline, motivation, are they sound pretty similar things, right? Discipline is having the motivation every single day to do a thing, and motivation is just, you're talking about one thing which consumes another, but I don't think that actually is the way it works. I think the way it works is some things you are motivated to do, i.e. you pull the energy out from inside of you. You can, think about sprinting, right? You pull the energy from inside and you sprint, you go do the thing. You can't do it for very long. You don't have the motivation for very long, but you can at least get your body going and get the rest happening. Whereas discipline is when you shower every morning, even if you don't feel like showering, you go in there and you do it. Discipline is the thing where you eat 3 times a day, not because, you get excited necessarily. I mean, I get excited about every meal because I'm, like, addicted to food, I would say. Whole separate point I could make. But, there's a lot of things, what things do I hate that I do in a day? For instance, when I was running to the gym, I had to stop because I went to America/Mexico for a week. But, that was a discipline thing. Every day at 11, I didn't want to do it. I was just like, I will feel bad if I don't do it. I was almost, my default course of action was that. And I think it's, I wanna get the message out to anyone out there, because especially, I guess if it is a new academic year, maybe some people are starting like a university or something for the first time. The most important thing is not having a big pool of motivation, because no matter how big your pool of motivation is, it's not gonna be big enough to make a life work, to make, anything that people wanna get done. But you need to have enough discipline to get the basic tasks that you want to get, finished, so that, you can use your motivation, whatever part of that is, to work on the cool things on top of that. I don't know what the particular examples may be here. Also, I'm going to take my scaffolding down. Let's work on this as well, actually, while we're here anyway. Maybe this Let's Play episode can be just kind of like finishing up the small odds and ends around places. I like that as a little kind of thing. But, yeah, the thing is motivation is how you get perhaps some of the best things done. But to get the basic things done, which can make the best things possible, you need discipline. You need to be like, okay, well, I'm going to do a thing. I don't care what the thing is, but you're going to do it. It has to be built into your brain, so then that way you can turn the things that you do into great things. If you literally give yourself an out to every decision you ever need to make in your life, then you won't build any pile of discipline. If this is one of the reasons why I find that people who control their own schedule, it's something that's very hard to do, because every part of your life, every part of your work day requires discipline from you, right? You need to be disciplined in order to literally even, wake up and go to work. How do you go to work when you live by yourself? Like most YouTubers, well, not live by yourself, but live in the same place you work. That's a good question. How do you do any of these sorts of things? There's not really a set answer. And that's why I just wanted to get it out of the way. Like, a key thing that I've been driving into myself is that even if you hate doing a thing at first, being able to, like, I would say you need to use your motivation to build discipline first, and then you can work on everything else that it goes with. Because humans do have, like, I like to imagine everything like a video game. I'm sure you've worked that out by now. But, in the same way, like in a game, you'd have your HP, your mana, and maybe like another bar. In real life, you have your HP, your, like how well you're doing. Obviously, when that's low, you're going to be doing less well off. But you also have like a motivation points, or MP if you want to call it that. So you got these motivation points inside of you, and you can choose where to throw them, but you need to use them to start building discipline. And it's generally the thing, which is how people start working every day. I haven't done that, and that's why I'm not a super bodybuilder type or whatever. But yeah, building discipline is so important, but also it's not focused on because it's not a cool story. It's something that doesn't sell super well. Like, oh yeah, this person, he, unless you do it on extreme timescales, like eating a Big Mac every day for, I don't know, 40 years. Like no one ever congratulates the guy who's like, oh yeah, I've gone to the gym every day for 20 years. Why? Because at this point it'd be weird if I didn't. But also, that's how you achieve the best results, right? Imagine every single day having to make the decision, do I want to go or not? And doing it every day for 20 years. It would be really impressive if you did, but also no one is going to do that. So if you want to make a big improvement, it's really important to like take a giant change, work out what little changes you need, and then just work out how to build the discipline on those tiny little mini changes, and then you can make a thing happen. And yeah, I've been trying to build that with like doing some amount of, like I said, I've been skiing recently. Just because I find it fun, so forcing myself to do something fun takes very little, like motivation to build. But once the discipline's there, it's going to be the sort of thing where I'm like, why am I depriving myself of fun? I don't want to deprive myself of fun. I'm gonna go do the thing that I want to do. No. And once that happens, I'll know at least a little bit that like, oh yeah, you've succeeded in the thing you were setting out to do. And yeah, I just want to give an example of like something really weird that I'm doing that like has, downsides and upsides, like everything in life. Life is a trade-off matrix. But I wanted to just kind of mention, maybe that's useful to you. And if it's not useful to you, do you want to hear about this map I'm making and why? Well, boy, let me tell you. So, yeah, I want to make a giant map so I have a point of comparison as to what 225 maps looks like versus 1. Because obviously, you get the same number of pixels on both maps. I think if it's not the same, it's very similar. But you get way more pixels per inch, pixels per whatever, I guess pixels per meter in Minecraft. But you get the same number of, PPI. The amount of resolution goes up way more. The amount of clarity, I guess you could say, when you have more maps. And I want to make that side-by-side comparison. And obviously, I probably should have had this small map the whole time. It just would have made things trickier, so that's why I didn't. But yeah, I have a map that I want to fill out and I want to do things with. And I'm going to do that slowly over the course of background videos and this and that. Like, it's going to happen, you're going to see it. But for now, let's fly up to my sky, or my boataway, I guess. There it is. You can see it from here. Actually, okay, here it is. Okay, we're good. We're good. I found it finally. It was a lot further away than I imagined, but that's fine. Things are allowed to be far away. Let's see if I can get this going, even though it's dark and I'm probably going to get hit by a skeleton or something. Let's see if I can do this. I can't do this. Whatever, it's close now. But yeah, no, I know it's something I realized, especially with like relationships of people, like building, oh god, building some form of system into them is incredibly handy. I really shouldn't have just left my boat there, by the way. That's going to come back and haunt me at some point. Let's hope that it's not anytime soon, I guess. But yeah, a lot of people don't realize that what makes a really great, I don't know, couple, or maybe a marriage perhaps, one I just did, is that they were both super disciplined in their thing for each other, right? Like, they were willing to go through this much work. It was a long distance relationship. It's not long distance, like medium distance. Like they had to see each other once a week. It was expensive. My friend had never used a train before, so he had to like learn how that whole thing worked. Like the fact that you go through this many steps is not like a testament to like, oh, this is the greatest love ever because it uses all their motivation to do things. It's because it used all of their discipline to do things. That's what marriage and what long-term committed relationships are to some extent, right? They are the idea of like, oh yeah, you know, the reason we don't look for other partners is because we're not only because we think we're great for each other, but also because that would probably help. You know, like there's a lot of there's a lot of parts of a thing that are just like, let's train ourselves to be super good at it. And I feel like there's too much of the world which teaches you about how to use your motivation, and that's something that is such a valuable trait. But then we never have the corresponding chat about discipline. I guess you could take it as like the same analogy of like how rights and responsibilities, and like without responsibilities you don't have rights. So like you to make it a Minecrafty example, because you better believe I'm going to do that at least once in today's video. The reason making something in creative doesn't feel as satisfying as when you do it in survival is because, you know, you don't have the work, you don't have the, you know, the payoff doesn't work without a corresponding workload going in, right? Like, you know, the concept of payoff is you did lots of work and now it is going to get this pay off. And yeah, you don't have payoff if you don't have the reverse kind of version of that. And I don't know, it's a lesson that like even to myself took so long time. So I figured maybe it helps someone out there. Maybe it just came across as like, oh, Toycat learned a thing and now he wants to share with the internet. And if so, you know, that's cool with me. If I help one person and seem preachy to 9 people, then I'd rather not. I'd rather not seem that way to the 9 people, but I hope that gives someone something in the world. Or maybe you just hear that and you go, you know, this is Toycat's descent into insanity. And if that's your takeaway, then you know, that's cool as well, I think. But anyway, yeah, we're going to work on the Skylands just a little bit. Obviously, it's not going to be the main focus in today's video, but I do want to show you, look, this is a thing that is still going on. There's a lot of different parts of it, and there's a lot of, like, there's so many different, like, mini projects from the big project. Like, I burned down the jungle. Oh, I didn't burn down. I chopped it down. I chopped down the jungle. I destroyed the entire iceberg biome. It's been a kind of fun little time, I think. I think I have come to realize, though, that, like, the best projects, because the reason I make the project videos, I guess we should talk about that, maybe. Oh, no, I want to talk about comparisons between things. You know, I think people would appreciate if I keep flowing and talk about the project videos. So, let me know if you're wrong. Let me know if you'd prefer to hear right now my thoughts on, you know, Nintendo versus Sony, or my thoughts on, I don't know, Apple versus Android, or, I don't know, women versus, cat girls, or something like that. You can, not cat girls, I mean, but you can let me know in the comments, and I'll work out that that's a thing I should do instead. But, no, the particular thing I do want to mention is the reason I make the project videos is because I love working on these things anyway. Like, this is a very satisfying, like, chill activity. But there is a certain amount of, like, why am I doing this with so much of my time when I could be making videos to it? And I'm like, oh yeah, what would be kind of fun is if I could document it and I could show people, you know, sometimes how the work does pay off or something like that, right? And so yeah, the whole point of a lot of the project videos is just like, oh yeah, do you want to see how fun it can be to spend 12 hours working on something, but also see that in 12 minutes, or it's probably more like 42 minutes. But, you know, like, condensing down a lot of stuff into a short amount of time. Because I think project videos, of any form, like, even if it's project, like, I built a fence out of, I don't know, only human teeth. Like, whatever your particular idea is, like, seeing something go from an idea to coming into life, it's, for me at least, it's very hard for me to conceptualize how, if you wanted to make, say, a brand new phone, I literally, like, you know, I want to compete in the smartphone market. I have such a great idea. I literally wouldn't be able to tell you the steps, right? And yeah, I think when there's like a little bit of a focus on like, okay, how do we actually make the cool things happen that we want to make happen? I enjoy that immensely. I enjoy that some great amount. And if you don't, then you're not. Maybe you're just objectively wrong or something like that. But no, oh, I'm using packed ice instead of blue ice. I'll go grab some blue ice just to switch out. Because I'd love to see the speed comparison between blue ice and packed ice. Because it's not a huge difference, but I know the acceleration really adds up near the end. By the way, all of this packed ice in my inventory makes that much blue ice, so... you know, a little bit... Just a reminder at how much you physically have to go through to make this all work. But, yeah, the if you wanted to do some giant project, it's really hard to conceptualize all the little bits. And sometimes you can teach people how all the little bits for certain things work, and that kind of helps in that way. And it is interesting to see, and that's why I think the whole idea of like business lessons are like I did a lot of business lessons in my day just because I was running a business at my home when I was like 13. And I was like, oh, this sounds relevant to me. I like money. This is the subject all about money. But one of the things about it that I find is interesting is like learning how the steps or process in something works is like genuinely prohibitive for a lot of people. I don't know how you could fix this as a thing, but yeah, I think in Minecraft a lot of people see these giant beautiful things, they go like, oh, that's cool. How did they make that? I don't really know. But when you see the making of something, whether it's in Minecraft or whether it's not, you can kind of look at that and go, oh, so I could do that. Or even if you don't want to do it yourself, or even if you don't think you could do it yourself, you're like, oh, that's still too much for me. Understanding how something is made is really, really cool and eye-opening. And it also validates a lot of the work and effort, I would say, that is put into making some of those things. Because why put a lot of... Oh, man, that's not correct at all. Why put a lot of work into making something when it's... like my example that I've used a billion times now, this is just going to be the Let's Play reference, is like Game of Thrones versus a reality TV, like the Kardashians or something. One of those things takes significantly more time than the other, but, they probably get similar viewership numbers. But it's not just about the viewership numbers, it's about all of the other things that go in. And, understanding that one is made better than the other can help shift the balance, I feel like. If nothing else. I don't know, if you've never watched the How Game of Thrones is made thing, I think the last season in particular, because the budgets started really, like, not low, but, like, low compared to what you would need to make a fantasy epic, you could say. But in the last season, they're, like, full on, like, oh, yeah, we made a town, and then we destroyed the town, and that's how we made sure we could have it in... Actually, wait, I think that's how they made, like, the ruined town, because they only needed the shots of, in the last season, they only needed the shots of it not being ruined for a little bit. And then they're like, oh yeah, so what we did is we used, because we wanted it to be burned for most of the episode, but we wanted to have a great scene where we burned it, we just planned the buildings in 2 phases. We built the broken buildings, then built the real ones on top of them, so the real buildings could crumble and immediately become broken. It's like, it's fascinating, because you don't think about it as like, oh yeah, you picture everything being special effects, but to make realistic broken buildings, you have to break buildings, and you can't just break a building. You've got to break it in such a way that it fits the audience's expectation of broken. And that, again, it's interesting. There's like there's intrigue to it. I think seeing how anything's made is cool, and that's why I make the project videos. They're objectively a bad use of my time, right? Like, I think the Stronghold Destruction project, I think I worked out based on how much that paid me. That video did a tiny bit better than average, but even then, I was working under the minimum wage for any developed country, besides the ones where like there's no minimum wage because the unions develop contracts or whatever. I don't know how many dollars it was. It was like $4 or something. I was like, you're not terrible, but I mean, $4 now to play Minecraft. Sure, I'll take it. And I did something cool. I hopefully encouraged some people. And yeah, measuring the value of anything you do beyond dollars can be hard sometimes. But I've been trying to at least attempt doing that recently. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. But is that not just life? By the way, if you don't love this music, something is wrong with you. Every time it comes up, I'm just like, this is the stuff. Because, I was talking about the reasons people do things before, and how most of the reason is usually to do with, most of the reason is like, oh yeah, because I'm disciplined or motivated. What? Nostalgia being like a driver for like, I did something before and then therefore I'll do it again. Like, nostalgia and discipline really do have a lot in common in that particular vein. Like, oh yeah, there are some things you do because you like those things, and there are some things you do because you have previously done those things. And nostalgia is like the perfect example. Like, things don't need to be good, they just need to be they just need to have been considered good at some point. There's actually this like eternal battle. It's happening in society all the times on all sorts of different levels. But the battle between should we do things differently or was the way we did them before pretty good happens, on every workplace, happens in every level of even like government and stuff, right? Like every single opinion slowly goes down that same rabbit hole. I actually want to talk about like crazy, not radical opinions, but yeah, actually like and why you should talk to people about ideas. But first, I feel like we have to dive into it at some point. We have to mention at least a little bit, you know, like I want to go through the controversial, like, pick one kind of things. I think this would have been a great opener to the video because I could have offended everyone straight away. But instead, like, everyone's been, like, worn out by the whole, like, you know, we know what discipline is, like, we don't care kind of talk. So instead, I'm just going to pretend you've all left anyway, and we're going to have a nice little private chat with just me and also me. Actually, should we make some glass around that? I think it might look kind of good. Maybe some white glass. I'd have to check that. So let's go back for the end stone for this next bit. I need to make it like a place where boats can turn around because this is not a very useful strategy. But oh yeah, that's why it's so bad. That is the reason right there. But yeah, let's talk about some of the big, like, which of these do you do? Because one of the things that's always on my mind is how there are so many topics that really don't matter on any grand scheme of things, but yet kind of make great conversation topics anyway. As an example, you know, whether you use Windows or whether you use Mac, I'll make fun of you if you use Mac. I'll make fun of you if you religiously use Windows. You're like, oh, it's objectively the best. I can poke fun at pretty much like either side. That's why I think that's the best way to be able to realize that, like, oh yeah, these are just conversation mnemonic devices. Be able to take whichever side leads to the best conversation. So that's that's sometimes what I like to do in terms of, I think especially Mac Windows, because I had a Mac for a while. There's a whole fun story about how I got given a MacBook once, like by a weird startup company that just literally had a pile of MacBooks to give away to. It was a really weird story that I had a MacBook, right? And then I lost it for a weird story too because I was stolen from on a train that shouldn't. Again, there's a fun story as to how the MacBook came in and out of my life. I did not buy an Apple product, so I feel like I actually got to see it from the perspective of, oh yeah, if I had enough money not to care about value per dollar or value per pound or, like, you know, because, you know, value is a real category that some portion of people don't care about or need to care about. I kind of got it from the perspective of, like, oh yeah, this thing cost me nothing, and I feel like legally I'm in some hot water if I sell it, so I'm gonna use it anyway because it's cheaper than the alternative. And yeah, I had a really interesting time with my little Mac thing. But yeah, as far as Windows versus Mac, the reason I'm a Windows guy though is only because it's super consistent between devices, and also even though, like, I have non-stop pain with Windows, I had this very stream, right, made this same map. It just crashed randomly, and it gave me the DPC watchdog error. Like, every time Windows crashes, there's an error message. Every time it gives me a generic one, and it's like, thanks. And then I work out the generic ones. It's like, oh yeah, why did it crash? It crashed because there was a crashing exception error, and it's like, now that right there is useful. Thank you. Did not realize it crashed because it crashed. Now it's so useful. Also, Windows rot. Every PC I've ever got is getting slower time. But the big thing is, like, the consistency of just, like, you know that there are Windows PCs out there. You know that it can run anything. Gaming-wise, like, try gaming on a Mac. Haha. Like, how many versions of Minecraft are there available for a Windows PC? Give you a clue. It's more than one. How many for a Mac? There's one. And hopefully there's eventually going to be another one, but there's not much motivation to work on that, is there? Also, do you think the map will fill out even if we're on the Blue Ice pathway? I genuinely don't know if it will. Oh, it looks like it actually will. I wasn't expecting that. Isn't that a nice... Oh, yeah, see, it didn't properly. Or did it? I'm not actually sure. Oh god. But yeah, let's take a boat down, shall we? And let's take this boat down. You know, why not? Or at least place it back the other way, so I can work that one out if I like to. But yeah, let's fly down, let's fly around, and let's fly to the Endstone Cube, and let's do a little bit of work on that one, shall we? And let's talk about another big hot button issue where you can be like, man, so Cat, you said things that I thought were cool, and then you said stupid things. Because, you know, my opinion on, like, I don't know, Android versus iOS is basically the same thing. It's just like, I don't want to be locked into a system. Here's the thing. I think oh, we need to do this, don't we? Do we need to do this? I feel like this is probably on us to do. Yeah, I feel like we can't just leave that. Oh, yeah, this is definitely not a good idea. Okay, let's just do a little bit of fighting on the way to the Endstone Cube. And, thank you very much, Mr. Iron Golem, for helping me. But, yeah, there is this, yeah, whatever, there's one mob left. I don't care about him. I just need him to stop killing my villagers, and then we're good. Oh, he's in the desert anyway. Perfect. So, yeah, I feel like there is a kind of culture of, like, the premium device has like a reputation just being like easier and better and stuff. But when it comes to Android versus iOS, usually the cool thing about Android is you can switch between Android devices, i.e., 80-something% of the devices on the market right now. Is it 80-something or is it 90-something? It might be 90-something. But like a Huawei, if you want a Chinese phone that where the government spies on you, but not your government, bad. I mean, arguing that there is a good bad. But anyway, do you want a Huawei phone? You want a Samsung phone? You trust the South Koreans? Don't trust the South Koreans? You can trust the Japanese. Sony still does make phones from time to time. Don't trust the Japanese? Go back to the South Koreans, because LG. I really like LG's like quirkiness in their devices. You're not a big fan of that though? Maybe go for a OnePlus. Like, oh yeah, they're Hong Kong. It might be Shenzhen actually, but it's near the Hong Kong border, if not in Hong Kong. And like I like that you've got so many choices. Whereas with Apple, it's like, oh yeah, we control everything, and do you not like it? Well, yeah. And I think most people don't care about the. I don't want to call it like a power hierarchy, but most people don't care about the internal system enough for that to be a problem. But for me, it kind of is. So while I'm dumping out all my extra stuff in a chest anyway, I'm reminded I had this conversation somewhat recently because so there's a video idea I have for like maybe 5 years for now. I don't know when what would be a good opportunity to bring this up, but I have a little bit of like I have a little something about every single date that I've ever been on, like a few notes here and there. And one of them, I think a lot of people might be offended by this, but one of them was like, oh yeah, has Android phone, big plus, right? Like, oh yeah, when being like, okay, so one of the things I will say, I'm gonna throw this out there into the wild, I'm gonna offend a lot of people with this, but I think when you see someone that has the same type of phone with you, if you're Apple guy, then that's Apple. If it's Android guy, that's Android. Then you know that, like, if you're into tech at least, you've got like a point of discussion like to have in common. And I really like that personally. So whenever I see that someone's got like an Android phone, I'm like, oh, what made you pick that one? And I know there's probably like a good reason. And that's actually one of the things I like most about Android is that it's a discussion point. It starts a conversation. Kind of like how I was saying, like, oh yeah, take the opposite view in arguments sometimes, play devil's advocate, you'll have a fun conversation from it. I really like hearing why someone picked and, why did someone go over the Japanese over the... Actually, are there any smartphone companies that are like in Europe? I feel like there can't be, right? But why do people pick the phones they choose? It's a really fascinating discussion to go into. Are they all Asian, actually? I'm just thinking in my head right now. Like, I know Apple's technically Californian, but like, they're all manufactured in China, and I know that there's a British company, ARM, that designs all the chips for every major Android smartphone out there in the world. But I don't think there's a single European or American phone. I could be wrong with that. I could be hugely forgetting one. But isn't that strange? Anyway, leaving that to the side. Something besides like the fact that it's kind of nice to have a point of thing in comparison, which is why having an Android phone will get you a plus one in the Toycat date review. Again, coming in like 5 years time when everyone who's in it is long dead. But moving on from that, because again, there's a lot of stories I feel like, gotta wait until the ink is dry. The ink is dry. That's a phrase that fits there. Let's talk about Xbox versus PlayStation, right? Or even you could say Xbox versus PC. Because, or let's say Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation 4. Which of the four free consoles, is the one that I prefer? And the Switch is objectively the best for my lifestyle because I fly a lot. But when I'm not flying, I like my Xbox One. A big part of that is it has a huge library attached to it. A big part of that is that I have controllers for it, and it's so easy to play with friends in that way. But also, I think, honestly, this is my one thing where I'll admit, yep, just a fanboy. Literally have it because I have it, and I don't like the switching costs of going to a new ecosystem. A lot of people try to justify their love and be like, oh yeah, well there's this. I think the coolest thing Xbox does is Games Pass. It is literally the best deal in gaming. I think they use that as a marketing slogan. And Microsoft don't pay me. They do the opposite of pay me. They deliberately don't invite me to events where they invite much smaller Minecraft YouTubers in an attempt to undermine and set up their own hierarchy on YouTube as opposed to using the existing one. Like, there is very much a distinct lack of payment between Microsoft and me. But what I will say is, whichever arm of Microsoft works on Games Pass, they do the idea was a very good idea, and then the fact that they bundle in Xbox Live with it now as like a slightly large subscription, so you can play unlimited games for $9.99 a month. It's cool. It's wonderful. I decided finally, like, you know what, $9.99 a month is a big subscription, but I do have Xbox Live and it's like £1 to upgrade or something. I was like, heck yeah, now I don't pay for games. I just, if I want to play a new game, it's the same thing as you know how every single person has this. If you have a Steam account, you have too many games in your Steam account. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to personally attack you, but it's true. In the same way you have like an infinite games library of games you know you'll enjoy but haven't played yet, instead of knowing that you bought them and feeling guilty, it's knowing that you have access to them that feels cool with Games Pass. It's like Netflix, right? You don't watch everything on Netflix, but you have access to everything. It's way better than cable TV in that way. And I think in the same way, I don't know when Games Pass will catch on. Maybe like, honestly, like Sony makes a better version and that happens, in which case, obviously switch over there. But yeah, I love the whole Games Pass thing and the fact that Microsoft puts all their new games, like Halo 6 is going to go on there, the latest Forza is on there, etc., etc. Like Minecraft is even on there. Fun fact, you don't have to pay for Minecraft on an Xbox if you don't want to. That to me, that is some cool beans. So while I'm talking about some pretty non-radical opinions right now, how about we talk about the concept of why you should probably, because I guess there's like maybe 2 messages in this one. One is about like use your motivation to build discipline and don't expect the lesson that no one ever teaches and that movies can, because it's not a great story. It's a great thing to do, but it's not great to like tell someone like, oh yeah, why'd you do that? Oh yeah, it just happened. You know, it's not as exciting. Like whenever you hear that, you're like, huh. Whereas if I say, what's the reason that you saved all those burning children from the building? I guess the building would be burning, not the children. I guess the children would be burning if they're in a burning building. But why did you save the burning children from the building that might have also been on fire? We're not sure right now. You know, like, if I just say, oh yeah, just I've been trained to save burning children, you'd be like, ah. Whereas if I say, oh yeah, I summoned from within me more courage than I've ever felt before. I didn't want to do it. You know, it's like more relatable. And I think the reason for that is because like, weakness is, a lot of people don't know, but weakness is actually like a lot more relatable than your strength. No one wants to hear about how great you are. Please stop telling people like, all your greatest things. Like if someone asks, you can tell them. This is the rule I've learned about conversation over all these years, is that if you go out of your way to tell someone something, it's just, you know, it seems bragging or this. If someone asks and that is the genuine answer, wow, that's kind of nice. And if you're going to pick something about yourself to tell, it usually shouldn't be your best quantities. It should be not your worst either, but like the ones where you seek the best improvement, the vulnerabilities of yourself. Like a lot of people, you know, I don't know. Like that, one of the things that help people is that on this channel, rather than being like, hey, you know, that nonsense, which I'm not going to do another impression of because it hurts my voice. But, you know, I tried to talk real. I tried to say some things that helped me and maybe will help you. But like one of the things that I've had so many messages saying like, oh yeah, this seriously did help, was on the depression thing before, right? I've said before, like I would say many years of like super depression, let's call it. But like I don't know, there were years of my life where I was just like, yep, this is just it now, and realizing, I guess the end realization of like, oh yeah, and the reason why that was the first time they'd heard someone that they enjoyed or respected say it is because it's not a big cultural thing to share your shames, your weaknesses, your whatever else. You know, we're trained that, oh yeah, you've only got to share your successes. They're the cool things about you, and they're the things that you should try the most on some extent. And I guess it is good that people do try that, but also your failures are sometimes the most interesting thing. In a world where everyone's talking about the coolest and best thing they've done, every now and then people want to hear about, the story I always talk about is a time I watched Speed, and it very much was not a speedy movie. It took weeks to go by. There's a whole, I'll tell that story again. Add this to the list alongside like Girlfriend Who Ghosted Me and Weird Story that can be told 2 years from 2 weeks ago, I think it is. You know, you can add to the list of stories from there, like, oh yeah, so what's the deal with Speed, Toy Cat? I feel like actually, if you ever wanna just surprise trigger me, just ask me what's the deal with Speed, and I'll have like a flashback on the spot, and you can be like, oh, we don't like to talk about Speed over here. pretty good movie though. Like, you know, anything Keanu Reeves is in is usually a good bet. And you know what, Speed is definitely meant to be that. I've never watched Speed 2. I hear it's about a boat. That sounds like a very bad plot for a movie. But yeah, my point overall with all of these things that I've said today is I don't know what I'm saying all the time. I don't know who I am or what I am even, or why people choose to watch these videos sometimes. And sometimes I feel super demotivated as to like, why do I do any of it anyway? But the thing that keeps me going is every day I wake up and I go, no matter what I do today, I will feel better having done it. And I can then I try to apply the motivation on top of that to be like, so let's take like my video idea list. Oh, there's a video coming on my video idea list, and I think I've referenced like it being a possibility before, but we finally just decided, you know what, I'm gonna have my editor go through and like look at my entire idea list so he can talk about the ones he finds most questionable. And yeah, I accidentally turned what was meant to be a motivational message into a plug, but YouTube 2019, am I right? I did what I had to, and I think it was totally worth it. But no, yeah, this Endstone Gamification Curious is going to be finished maybe in the next Let's Play episode. Be honest with me down below. Do you like the kind of monotonous repetitive task of the cube? Or are you thinking like, nah, you can do something fresh, start something new? Because I think next episode, if we focus the whole episode on it, we actually can probably finish it. Although actually, do I have enough Endstone? Because I did the maths that 50 by 50 is 2,500, right? So I need 12,500 to finish the cube. And I'm not convinced I have that number, because I still have to do an entire side, plus the top, plus half of 2 other sides. And this is the amount of endstone that I have. I have that, and I have this. So maybe we're going to have to go mine some endstone. Who's looking forward to some mining endstone for 90-minute streams in the next week? I know I am. But no, yeah, honestly, I want to throw out the message to anyone who's been watching the streams. I know doing it in a Let's Play is weird, but there's a lot of overlap between the stream audience and the Let's Play audience, so this is actually one of the best places to reach you. These streams have been really helping me a lot over the past, like, week and a half, I'd say. And thank you for coming along and making me feel like I'm not wasting my time doing something that I really enjoy for the internet, because there's always a fear of that out there. And every day that you show up, it reminds me that that's not the case. And thank you for at least validating my existence. And here's to another 400 more episodes. Oh, also, in 5 episodes, we've got a funny number. I know, it's going to be great. It's going to be just the best. But no, yeah, thank you very much for watching, because I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.